Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, of course, when you hear that word, you think of the original Yu-Gi-Oh!, aka Duel Monsters, not the newer one, which we'll talk about in a different video. As much as the beloved card game was, sometimes it can get a little bit frustrating for some people. In the midst of the Duel Monster card game, a little spin-off besides the Dungeon Dice Monsters was Capsule Monster. That's right, that little tiny mini season that I had for Capsule Monsters. Although never really got as popular as the card game, it did get a game. Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monsters Coliseum. Now, of course, that is one of my favorite games of all time, and I am very grateful to be able to share it with you. Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monsters Coliseum came out, oh man, a long time ago. Came out like 2000. That's right, 2000. Just about like everything that happened in my life of video games, it just appeared. I don't know how we got it. I don't know when we got it. All I know is when I got my consciousness, I spawned in with a PS2, a GameCube, and a Wii. And a DS. Weird, but whatever. But besides that, let's get right into the mechanics of the game. Now, of course, before that, I would tell you this quick disclaimer for those who are joining the channel now. This is a mixture of media. The second channel was created for movies and games. Now, of course, if you look at my catalog of videos, not too many games, but we'll fix that very soon. Just a quick reminder for those who are waiting to see next upload and see it's a movie. Not to be surprised. But anyways, the essential gameplay is that you get these capsules, right? And you use monster points to buy them and to be able to use them in combat. Now, of course, first they start off in the little type egg thing, obviously. But you could use AP, which is action points in the game, to release it from its capsules. Now, of course, depending on the monster, it also gives you plus AP. You may be wondering what that is, of course. So now you have AP, and next to it in parentheses, you have plus AP, right? So the one on the left is what you have already, and you can spend it. While the other one is how much AP you gain during your next turn. And of course, by releasing more monsters from the capsules, the more plus AP you get in your next turn. Obviously, some monsters give a lot, which we'll talk about later, and some of them straight up just give you nothing. But obviously, there is some type of benefit to those monsters, obviously. There's a reason why they only give so little. So the thing is, you have to protect your crystal. And you also have to destroy all your opponent's monsters. Now, of course, you could go straight for the crystal and just kill it. And once you destroy the crystal, you win the game. Now, of course, there are some downsides, which we'll talk about later. But of course, the first thing you do in the game is create, well, your crystal. Now, of course, depending on the thing you want to do with the crystal, you either start off with more AP in your first turn, which usually is good, right? Because it means you get to release more monsters. But you could also get more MP, which is monster points, which we'll talk about later. But it can also increase the strength of the crystal, which once again we'll talk about later. And later is now MP, aka monster points. Once you create the crystals, you move on to your grandpa's shop, which for some reason Yugi thinks he's gonna get capsule monsters for free. Come on, Yugi, you must know, bro. Come on, whatever, right? So you get an option to get a pre-made deck or go into your grandpa's shop and buy your own. Now, of course, depending on the crystal you choose, and also, for the most part, you would pick to go into the shop. You know, pre-made decks, don't get me wrong, are good, but there is a little special thing you get when you make your own deck, which we'll talk about later. But after that, you got your AP, your MP, and you got your monsters now. You get into the first arena, which unfortunately, is part of the bad. So, of course, in this video, we'll be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. As of now, we're just going through the motion. So Arena 1 is unfortunately all your friends. You first face Joey Wheeler, then Tristan Taylor, then Duke Devlin, and Taya Gardner. And a little special someone, which we'll talk about later. So Joey Wheeler, unfortunately, which is part of the bad, we'll talk about that now, he doesn't return in the game. Other characters in this, which we'll talk about later, return in the final arena. Joey doesn't, which sucks because Joey has always been seen as the third guy, you know. First it's Yugi, then Seto, then Joey. He never returns, which sucks. But his arena, so Arena 1 is basically just teaching you the ropes of the game. How to use your AP, how to conserve it, obviously MP, which isn't too important other than the beginning, where you're able to use monsters for certain MP. Obviously, the more stronger monsters or different monsters take a lot more MP to be able to use in battle. But of course, you go in. So Joey's arena is the Forgotten Capital, which is a little thing where a lion spits out water, right? Which is totally normal, right? But Joey symbol is fire. which is an element which we'll actually talk about now. So fire, obviously, in the real world is weak against, most of the time, water. And the arena has water, which doesn't seem like a major problem because it's all the way in the bottom, right? But nope, once again, we're being taught about how the arena changes as the water level rises, and sometimes falls down depending on how long it takes for you to beat Joey Wheeler. Not only that, obviously it takes AP to move your piece, but depending on where in the arena you move your piece to, you lose attack or defense, obviously. Same thing for fighting a monster, which we'll talk about the fighting mechanics later. So obviously it teaches you, hey, maybe you shouldn't use the same element for all your monsters, right? You need some diversity. And of course, maybe you shouldn't pick elements that are not good in that environment. You know, very obvious stuff. Unfortunately, it has to be taught via Joey Wheeler. And once you beat him, whether it be you destroy the crystal or not, afterwards you get to pick 2 pieces of your opponent's deck that you get to keep. Which is unfair because Joey Wheeler has the same monster, that being the Fire Reaper. Which is, I'm going to say this right now, a very, very good monster. Although he never really increases in health, or he only gives plus 10 AP. Obviously, not the best. He's a powerhouse. 2 shots damn near everything in the game. Except light monsters, which once again, we'll talk about the elements later. But, you know, I said destroying crystals come with a little downside. If you destroy a crystal, you can only keep the monsters that you already destroyed. So let's say you have this super powerful monster that your opponent has. Unless you destroy it, you're unable to capture it in the end. Now, of course, there's also another way you can destroy it, and you can destroy it inside its egg. If you destroy it inside its little capsule, you also can't claim it. So, if you want a monster, you're going to have to go destroy it yourself, and then go for the crystal or whatever, right? Then you get Tristan Taylor, who gets another thing. So obviously in the arena, there's certain environments that take away points off of certain elements. This one damages every element except one, being the wood and electricity one. So you have lightning and wood. If you're in the little spore thing without a wood monster, it gets hurt. Same thing with the lightning one, you get hurt there. But once again, you defeat him. But it's fine. This dude is a little bit more diverse with his monsters. Obviously, he goes from 1 element to 2 elements. Very nice. Then you get to Duke Devlin. What does he teach? Weird map layouts. That's about it. Don't get me wrong, he has a lot more better monsters, but for the most part, it's just weird map layout. You need to learn how to maneuver around the map correctly, because there's some parts where you think, oh damn, I have to go all the way around, right? Because your monster can't go around it, can't go through it, right? Then Taya Gardner is another one, which is kind of like a slow-paced fight, as the arena changes as well to support, well, the light and water monsters. And then you get the very secret character, that being Grandpa Moto himself. He is the boss of Arena 1, which is weird because there's certain arenas where you have to go one by one, meaning you have to beat Joey Wheeler to get to Tristan Taylor, to beat Tristan Taylor to go to Duke Devlin. But in some other arenas, which is, I think, Arena 2, you can choose whoever you want to fight first anyways. We'll talk about the characters later, right? Solomon Moto, another one's like weird map layout because his map is that once you go on a space, it flips it on the other side. Or it flips the surrounding areas to either fire or wood, obviously benefiting one or the other. But he has a very special monster, that being one of the pieces of Exodia. That's right. You know, I said that the best maneuver is probably to get to go inside Grandpa Moto's shop. That's because you get access to another piece of Exodia. The difference is, if you don't claim him, he disappears. You can't get him anymore. Same thing with this one. If you don't claim the piece of Exodia, you basically can't get Exodia. But besides that, once again, going through the motions. Now, Arena 2 is a lot more complex maps, a lot more, obviously, arenas where it really greatly benefits your opponent, that being Mako Tsunami's arena. So, of course, you get fan favorites. So now we'll talk about the characters. I already talked about the mechanics of the game, basically, except the movements and the elements. But besides that, we get Weevil Underwood, Mako Tsunami, Rex Raptor, May Valentine, Mokuba Kaiba. By the way, I'm going in order. Spoilers, obviously. Bakura, Bandit Keith, Maximilian Pegasus, Odeon, Merrick Ishtar, Shadi, Yami Bakura, Yami Merrick, Ishizu Ishtar, and Seto Kaiba. Now, of course, these are for the first 4 arenas. We'll talk about the secret, not really secret level, but we'll talk about the elements now. So the elements consist of earth, wind, wood, thunder, light, dark, fire, and water. Now, of course, elements are weak to one and strong against the other and neutral against the rest. Of course, earth is good against thunder, thunder is good against light, light is good against dark, and dark is good against earth. Now, of course, the other four is fire is good against wood, wood is good against wind, wind is good against water, and water is good against fire. Now, of course, in both of these separate like little rock, paper, scissors scenarios, there are two main monster types, right? You have the tanks, high defense, somewhat very low attack, and the absolute powerhouses, the one with a lot of attack, probably not as much defense. And then the other two are neutral but have a little bit better attack or defense depending on the thing. Now, of course, for the one with the dark, dark is the powerhouse, especially with the dark crystal. Expect to one-shot a lot of things, especially earth. Earth does not stand a chance. At least the other ones, sometimes they can stand a chance depending on the monsters. Dark just absolutely one-shots earth. Earth does not stand a chance. And light is the tank. That's right. Light, which we'll talk about later after we talk about the elements, is a tank. Absolute high defense. Thunder is more attack oriented on the neutral side, and earth is more defense oriented. Doesn't really matter because dark one-shots them. Fire is the powerhouse of the other rock, paper, scissors scenario. Wind is the tank. Wood is the attack, and water is the defense of the neutral sides anyways. Now, of course, with the crystal, you get to absolutely, benefit the element for what it's strong against. Obviously, a dark crystal will raise the dark monster's attack. Light crystal helps the defense of light monsters. Obviously, for the other ones, counts as well. But one of the problems in Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monster Coliseum, now that we talked about the ins and outs, the arena, and all that stuff, is that dark and light are very, very strong in this game. And by very, I mean absolutely strong. Now, of course, as I talked about the other guys in the arena, obviously you get to pick up their monsters, which are exclusive to them. You can't get them outside of them. You can't find them in the shop. But with the dark attribute, you get Bandit Keith's Barrel Dragon, one of my favorite monsters, and an absolute powerhouse in this game. It has high health and super high attack and long range, which we'll talk about now. So, of course, monsters move in 3 separate ways. It moves forward, backwards, side to side. It can move diagonal from, obviously, northwest, I guess you get the point, the same way. And you get the one where it skips one. So if it says, instead of moving straight all this way, it can move anywhere. And it can move diagonal, forward, backwards, as long as it skips the first space. So obviously it doesn't move here, it moves to the next one. Same thing with diagonal, it doesn't move here, it moves to the next one. Obviously all around it. And the same thing goes with the way they attack. Obviously the better type is having the straightforward attack instead of the skip one. I don't know what that one's called. I don't know what type of attack that is, but it skips a space. That thing is the worst way of attacking. And we'll talk about a monster who got nerfed that way, basically. But Barrel Dragon moves 2 spaces, front, back, side to side, but can attack 3 spaces ahead of it, meaning it has 5 squares of distance. Meaning if you're 5 squares away from it, it can catch you. And of course, with the Dark Crystal, it could absolutely one-shot. Not to mention, you have Merrick Ishtar, who has Zoa as one of his monsters. Absolute powerhouse too, especially strengthened with the Dark attribute. And of course, for the light one, you have monsters like Maximilian Pegasus, who are some of the worst stages of the game. Same thing with Seto Kaiba, as he has access to one of his Blue Eyes White Dragons, one of the tankiest monsters in the game. Even lightning monsters can't do anything against Blue Eyes White Dragon, and I mean it. This is what I mean by dark and light are absolutely OP. Light is somewhat more OP, but not against other monsters. It's super tanky, but most of the light monsters have abysmal attack. And of course the crystal doesn't help the attack at all. So it's just a tank. It does 20 damage, sometimes even less, depending on the light monster. And it makes the gameplay slow down to a crawl, which is why it's very hard to have fun playing against Maximilian Pegasus or Seto Kaiba in the first run. Because don't get me wrong, you have some good lightning monsters, but for some reason these light ones are tanky as hell. They be destroying your lightning monsters faster than you be destroying them. It's wait, I have the advantage. I should be able to beat you. But anyways, besides the obvious maybe balance issues this game has, the maps look amazing. Obviously it's PS2, so take it with a grain of salt. But the soundtrack they have for the game, and I almost mean it, mostly every arena you play, every player you play against, they all have a great theme. One of the best is Seto Kaiba's the first time you fight Seto Kaiba in City of Redemption, which people make fun of because people are like, Seto Kaiba really thought he was going to win this game. That's why he named it City of Redemption. He thought he was going to beat Yugi. Obviously he doesn't, which is of course wishful thinking. And you may be wondering, first time you fight him. That's right, after you beat all 4 arenas, which in the game looks like that's it, a 5th one appears. That's right, King's Coliseum, where you rematch some of the best players you played against, being Maximilian Pegasus, Ishizu Ishtar, Yami Merrick, Shadi, and Seto Kaiba. Which sucks because, don't get me wrong, I like Shadi. I like the map, especially the second, especially in the rematch. I like it. Joey Wheeler should have took the spot in the King's Coliseum. I like Shadi, I like the arena, but a rematch against Joey Wheeler, oh my, that would have been so good. And that's the one thing they just missed the mark on that one. And also Yami Bakura. Yami Bakura, of course, spoiler, even though it's a pretty old anime, Bakura is the final antagonist of Yugioh. Of course, he's kind of like one of the first ones he appears, Yami Bakura. But he's also the last. He's also one of the strongest antagonists in the, well, Duel Monsters anime. And don't get me wrong, once again, Ishizu Ishtar, the rematch is amazing as well, but I just feel like the spot should have gone to Yami Bakura. But besides that, one other thing that I forgot to mention, which is horrible on my part because I'm dumb, is that each monster has an attack animation. That's right, you have an ability to watch an attack unfold, and a lot of these are very unique and very nice. And I like some in Skulls. I like Exodia, which we'll talk about soon. But another thing I like about the game is, although I was complaining of how tanky light monsters are, even the thunder, and how OP dark monsters are, every monster in the game, even if they're not as good as in card form, obviously someone like White Dolphin is absolutely abysmal in the card form. In Capsule Monsters Coliseum, it is an actual viable monster. Now, of course, you don't actually have a lot of chances of using water monsters to their full potential in this game. Besides the Meku Tsunami arena, they are still very much viable in the game. Not only that, they also gave a lot of love to Karibo. Of course, Karibo is made fun of for being how trash it is, but Yugi uses it to its full potential. Karibo is one of the best monsters in the game. He's cheap. He gives a lot of plus AP. He is also very agile. He moves 2 spaces diagonally and can attack 2 spaces, front and back, side to side, obviously. A very good monster. And obviously with the Dark Crystal, oh my god, a whole army of Karibos, that can actually probably go through the game. Maybe not Kaiba's or the rematch against Kaiba, definitely not those, but obviously you got another thing. That being fusions and evolving. Fusion, obviously the main one is Exodia. After you collect all 5 pieces of Exodia, you get to summon the forbidden one, Exodia. Now, of course, unfortunately, you don't win the entire game by summoning him, but you do keep him as a fully fledged Exodia piece. And of course, with the Dark Crystal, he one-shots everything. Sometimes even, unless it's like the Blue Eyes White Dragon or a leveled up light monster, it can most likely one-shot those light monsters. That's how powerful it is. But you know how I said they nerfed him? Yeah, Exodia moves weird. He only moves diagonally and can only attack like the one like, oh, it skips one but goes to the other one. I don't even know what that one's called, but it looks like this. There are some monsters that completely negate Exodia because he moves so weirdly. I played a game with Exodia. There's this monster, because he was my final piece. I couldn't do anything. I would try to move every way possible. The monster always found a way to just get back in, attack me, and I couldn't do anything about it, and I lost. So yeah, Exodia is OP, which don't get me wrong, although I say they completely, they nerfed them with that, they also give an ability. That's right, monsters get an ability. Certain levels, they get an ability. Obviously, some of them increase the attack of the surrounding monsters, or do an extra attack. Well, not really an extra attack, but they can attack, right? Exodia gets the special ability Obliterate, which deals massive damage to every monster around them. And by every monster, I mean every monster, even your own. And let me tell you something. You do that when it's surrounded by 4 monsters, it just one-shots everything. And the thing is, the Dark is so OP that I try to replay the game with a different symbol, right? Obviously, I tried Thunder and I tried Light. I made it all the way to Merrick Ishtar in Area 3. I couldn't get past him because he was a dark user himself. And with Zoa, who was the absolute tank and the absolute powerhouse, it's very hard to get past them, especially with weaker light monsters. Now, of course, one thing I did forget once again is that the crystals unfortunately also hinder other monsters. You know how I said monsters are good and bad against other ones? Crystals do the same thing. A dark crystal will support dark monsters, but will negatively impact earth monsters. Same thing with wind and water and, you know, all the other elements. Now, how do they negatively impact them? In one of the worst ways possible. It cuts their health in half. I didn't realize it until I realized why Two-Headed King Rex, which was Rex Raptor's main monster, which, by the way, another thing, it's a small touch, but it's so good, is that for their ace monster, depending on the certain player who actually gets access to a ace monster, it does a special animation for when they summon them, which is very cool. The difference is every time I try to use Two-Headed King Rex, I was like, why is it so weak? Until I used another crystal. When I used the lightning one, I saw Two-Headed King Rex. I was like 240 health or something like that. I was like, what? I didn't have that much health last time. Yeah, because the dark negatively impacts earth. Obviously, it negatively impacts the one it's strong against, which is bad because you don't get access to a lot of monsters. Unfortunately for earth, they don't have that much good monsters, so you know it's not that much of a downside. But for light, oh, that one absolutely ruins your chances because all the dark monsters, all the super powerhouses, have their health cut in half. Now it's super hard to even use them. But once again, it's a good looking game. It is. I love it. It's like chess, but obviously not the same because you have areas good and bad. You have boss monsters, boss characters. And also one thing, another small thing is that if you stay still for long enough, the characters comment on it. They're like, hello, anyone there? You know, especially Sadokai, like, hey, start doing, like start moving or forfeit or something. And it's like, bruh, Kaiba, I'm thinking right now. You have a blue eyes on my neck right now. I can't do anything. But besides that, if there's any way for you to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monsters Coliseum, I highly recommend it. And if you want a true challenge, don't use the Dark Crystal at all. You know, I actually got an idea for talking about this game when I saw someone playing it. And it was a mod. What was the mod? Nerfing dark monsters. Because, oh my god, that thing is super strong, man. They need to nerf that. But it is wishful thinking, I guess is the correct term, that they would remake Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monsters Coliseum for a newer generation. Newer monsters, of course, now you have Link summoning, which of course you don't have to because there are some fusion monsters that you don't have to fusion for. They're already, you just buy them. So you don't have to introduce new mechanics to the game. But I really want another Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters Coliseum. I really do. I love this game. I love the soundtrack. I love the animation that they use for the attacks. And most of the monsters are valuable in this game. Maybe not the strongest, but they are good. The fact that White Dolphin can be an actual useful piece in the game is nothing short of impressive. But besides that, enough dilly-dallying, enough going on tangents. Once again, I am very appreciative you were here to listen to me talk about one of my favorite games, Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monsters Coliseum. Now for a little treat, I will be streaming this game. I will find a way to stream this game on Twitch. I'll put in the link in the description. And I will be playing with a different crystal. Not dark, not light. A different crystal that, hey, maybe even you guys can choose. But besides that, enough dilly-dallying. Hope you enjoyed this video. And hopefully, you'll find a way to enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monsters Coliseum. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. The next topic will most likely be another video game as I'm still getting through with watching all the movies that I missed. Most likely Need for Speed Hot Pursuit or Blitz 2002. If you guys want to see one before the other, hey, just comment it down below and I'll see it and I'll do it. Anyways, goodbye.
Why did I lose?
It was a close match, Rex Raptor, but I'm the winner.
I hate you! There's no need to stick around and rub it in. Hurry up and go to the next stage.
Goodbye, Rex Raptor.